All right, so we are here to recap the boys LILJ High School Winter League since we just wrapped up the full first week last night. Had a total of 8 games going on, and we're here to recap all the games on the boys' side, really going back to this past Sunday. So I'm Ellis Joshua, and of course I'm joined by Coach Wink. Coach Wink, how you doing here this afternoon?
I'm doing good, bud. We just had a little talk before we jumped into the recording. I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a long few days, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been great seeing these kids compete again. I mean, we're learning so much about Long Island lacrosse. I mean, there are kids we've never seen. There are kids that are gotten better. I mean, that's what gets me excited to see the growth. To see a kid like Callan McLaughlin who's going to Harvard, and to see a kid like that, how much he's grown in the last 2 years. That's we talk about development all the time, you and I and Corey and Christian, and at the end of the day, it's if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
To keep up with everybody.
yeah, I know you've been working your tail off because I know you've been doing all the recaps, but you're also working on some cool stuff with now that all of the kids are down in Florida at the convention at the tournament. What's been going on with that?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we've been focusing on doing rankings for the boys in the class of 2025. So we've already dropped so far our top polls in the 25 class on TikTok, as well as our top goalies in the 25 class. So those are out there on TikTok at LI Lacrosse Journal. And they've also been reposted on our Instagram page. But we still have to drop our top attackers in the 25 class, top midfielders in that class, as well as top Fogos. So those are going to be coming very soon, and there might be a chance that they'll be out before this podcast is out. But uh, but either way, those are going to be coming really soon. So looking forward to everyone staying tuned for that.
Been watching a lot of film, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the things we've been talking about, just like a lot of film that's being watched, and it's between myself, you, and our whole LILJ team. But for yourself, just getting a chance to look at a lot of film from players across all over Long Island. Just what are some of your thoughts just about some of the things that you're seeing when looking at highlight tapes and film?
Well, my first and it's funny. I was discussing this with Corey. The first thing I noticed is you don't need the bullshit. You don't need the pictures of yourself. You don't need the celebrations of yourself. You don't need none of that. And the the contact information should be at the end of the video. Okay. Yes, you can have it at the beginning for really quickly, but at the end of the day, if they're interested in you, they're going to watch the video, and it shouldn't be longer than 3 minutes. 5 minutes. You're not Martin Scorsese. Okay, you're not making The Godfather 17. And at the end of the day, we don't need to see you walking to the field and walking around the field, and we want to see highlights. We want to see you playing lacrosse, but we also want to see you doing the right things. And hopefully the parents are overseeing this process, and the ridiculous celebrations, they don't do you any good. At the end of the day, we want to see you compete, and we want to see how hard you work. We want to see your abilities. We want to see that you have two hands, that you know how to play defense, that you hustle, that you have athleticism. Those are the things you want to show in a highlight film. A celebration, I mean, what is that showing? Okay, I mean, to me, that doesn't show your personality. If they're going to want to know your personality after they like the way you play lacrosse.
Right, when they get a chance to know you.
Exactly. If they recruit you, they're going to get a chance to know you, and if they like you, they're going to want you even more. And if they don't like you, they're going to want you even less. But why turn them off? Coaches don't care about celebrations. Coaches care about winning. And how do you expect them to win? They get quality young men and young women in their program that work hard and that produce. And that's what you have to focus on. So focus on the things that are important in life. I mean, I've seen enough of it. Yeah, obviously the music and all that stuff is awesome. A good tune is good. It keeps you, if you like what you're watching, it's good. You want good music. You want the music to be respectful. But I think that's my rant for the day on highlight films. Well, I've watched enough of them and over the last few years and stuff, especially now that we're evaluating kids for these rankings and stuff like that. I think it's very important that these parents oversee this and they realize that and ask for advice. My suggestion is talk to your coaches. Hopefully your coach. I mean, I know most of the coaches on Long Island. They're all high quality mentors. They're going to give you good advice. But that's my two tidbits on highlights. Let's get into the games. December 3rd, the Sunday games. I mean, the first game was a doozy. The Mustangs against the Firebirds. Well, what was your take on that game? I know that was the first boys game of the night.
Yeah, that was the first boys game on that Sunday evening, and that was a close one between Sinai and Kellenberg. So Sinai, they got a 5-3 win there. Really low scoring, real defensive battle, and that might have been the most physical game of the night. I mean, we did see it get a little chippy down the stretch there between the two teams, but no harm done. But Sinai with that 5-3 win, and just a few players on their team to kind of highlight. You had Nicholas Coretta. He had a couple goals in that game. So he came away with two. Also had a few ground balls as well. Then you got Lucas LaForge. He had a goal and an assist for Mount Sinai. But that was a game. Also Brett Oppenheim and Noah Sulpizio with goals as well. But that was a game where it was more so predicated on the defensive end. And a couple of Mount Sinai's polls that I do want to highlight is Dimitri Bautis and Jimmy Millen. I thought they played really well in that game, whether it was getting ground balls or clearing the ball for Mount Sinai. I thought those two both did a really fantastic job in that aspect, which I think was a real difference maker for Mount Sinai, able to come away with a close win there.
The face-off kid is number 3 or number 23?
Number 3, Tommy Massaro.
Okay, I got to change that stats because the stats are next to the Tyler Massaro, so that's incorrect. I will fix that, I promise.
Yeah, Tommy Massaro, he's just a 27. So definitely look out for him over the next few years for Mount Sinai as he's getting a chance to already play with their varsity program in the Winter League.
Yeah, good luck. That's good. Good experience for the young man.
Yeah, I remember him last year at College Bound, really kind of showing out over those couple of nights.
That's
Um,
cool.
but
Anybody from Kellenberg impress you?
Yeah, so we can go over to Kellenberg and just kind of taking a look at them, just taking a look at going to their face-off guy, Jack Crotty. He had a few face-off wins for them, which really kind of kept them in that game, gave them a chance to try and come away with a win. I thought Stephen Kiernan as well. Kiernan, one of their poles, he had a few ground balls, also a couple caused turnovers in that game for Kellenberg. And they had a number of goalies that are on their roster and also played in that game. So the goalies that played in that game, they had Gavin Hirsch, Chris Lamoureux, excuse me, and Sean Nellen. They each saw time in that game. Kellenberg kind of switching goalies a little untraditionally as they had 3 in that game. So getting a chance to kind of rotate all their goaltenders. But yeah, again, that was a really low scoring game as goals were kind of hard to come by. But ultimately Mount Sinai just able to provide just a little bit more from an offensive standpoint to come away with that win.
It's good. The next game of the night, I'm going into it right now because I'm jumping around. I apologize, guys. Trying to make sure that Tommy's stats was Rust and Gold, which is a really good sports bar in Huntington. For those that don't know that, they're sponsoring a team of mostly Cold Spring Harbor kids, but they got some Hills kids. They played Hills, so those Hills kids played with Hills. But what was that game like?
Yeah, so that game was pretty much controlled by Hills, especially in the second half. But if you're talking about from an offensive standpoint, James Bruno, he had a big game for Hills as he had 4 goals in that one. And that was really what kind of put Hills over the top in that game was Bruno getting after it with the goals. Because if I remember correctly, I think James Bruno at one point he had rallied off 3 straight goals really early in that game, actually, which I thought kind of set a tone for Hills in that game. And they were able to establish a lead and not really look back in that one. But they also got 1-1 from Anthony Rayo. Also, they got some ground balls from Sal Caiazzo with a couple GBs. Um, and then also in the net for Hills was Sal Santoro, and he's really been a big difference maker. I mean, we'll kind of talk about him a little later too, as it refers to Half Hollow Hills game from last night. But I thought the goalie play for Hills so far in this league has just been outstanding.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats. James Bruno is still uncommitted. He's an uncommitted 25, right?
Yeah, he is still uncommitted.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at the stats. Just so everybody knows, the reason we don't put up if a kid like if they have a substitute teacher, we don't put their stats in there because obviously they're not on that particular team. So you'll see that in some cases the stats don't add up because if they had 2 goals, but one kid scored, but he's not really on the roster, but maybe he helped out for the night because they were short kids. Yeah, I went on that rant about that in the last podcast, so we'll move along. I'm going to take you to the Pequa boys who played the Friars 25s, which the Pequa boys they're out in full force, but looks like the Friars 25s had their way with them, huh?
Yeah, St. Anthony's that 25 team. They also have some 24s on that team as well. But St. Anthony's, that was a game where they were kind of just in command. I mean, you can look at Quinn Langton. He had a monster game. He had 6 in that one for St. Anthony's. Quinn Langton, the Army commit. But then also Luke Breslin, he was 2-2. You look at Gary Merrill, he was also 2-2. And St. Anthony's, like, they're a team that we know they just have so many different weapons from an offensive standpoint that it's just you kind of sometimes have to pick your poison because they can just come at you from so many different ways, so many different angles. And they were able to kind of demonstrate it in that game. Also, Joseph Schwartz, he had 3 assists in that game. So kind of shows you that they're not just doing it one on one, but kind of getting other guys involved, not just guys beating a man by themselves, but getting those assisted goals.
Yeah, so the Friars ended the night for us on Sunday night late, and then they
Yeah. Also,
started
also just want to mention quickly Sean Ford in the net. He's been awesome.
80%.
He's been awesome.
Yeah, 80%. I just saw his percentage. That's some day when you're 80% in the net. I don't care who you're playing. So anyway, I was saying how it's funny how they ended our night Sunday night and they started our night Thursday night. So obviously the Friars from St. Anthony's they opened up against Rust and Gold last night at 5 o'clock. Seemed to have it's a similar score to the Pequa game. What happened in that game?
Yeah, so another 13 spot for the Friars getting that win, 13-4. But again, just coming at you in so many different ways. Luke Asheim, he had a hat trick. Luke Breslin, he was 2-2, but also a couple caused turnovers. Quinn Langton, he had another 4-goal game last night. Gio Massaro as well with a couple. Gary Merrill also had a couple goals too, and also getting it done from the face-off X too was Dylan Smith. Dylan Smith, he's going to Stony Brook, I believe.
That's
Uh,
correct. That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So Dylan Smith able to win the majority of face-offs for St. Anthony's as well in that game. Um, but yeah,
Anybody for Rust and Gold step up and play well?
yeah, so for Rust and Gold, again, goals were kind of hard to come by for them. They did get a couple goals Well, they got singular goals from guys like Sam Bruno, Kevin Burns, Jack Catrone, and I thought um, I thought really for Rustin Gold though, it was just they kind of had a hard time just manufacturing possessions and being able to get a ton of quality shots on cage, which I thought really was the difference in that game, from that one kind of being a St. Anthony's runaway in that game.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt him, man. It's gonna hurt him because of the faceoff backs. Because they have Sam taking the faceoffs, but he's not a faceoff kid. He's an offense. He's more of a two-way midi,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate that's going to be one of the issues I think that Cold Spring Harbor and the high school level is going to deal with this year is that they don't have a true faceoff kid, and if you don't have a true faceoff kid, and another team has a faceoff kid, it's a make it take a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which obviously will be an issue. It's amazing, and I say this all the time. Dennis Bond should be in the Hall of Fame already, even though he's far from retiring, because winning. I mean, they won what, their sixth or seventh state championship.
Yeah, I believe it was their sixth this past spring, and
Sixth state
back to back.
championship, all under Dennis, all since 2006. So he's won six in 17 years. That's
That's
that's that's New England
I was
Patriots.
I was just gonna say that. That's like a New England Patriots type run.
Yeah, I'm definitely behind the Dennis Bond and the Hall of Fame thing. And I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he told me he might coach till he's 70, and he's still in his 50s.
So he's got a ton of time left coaching that program. I mean,
Absolutely,
they don't want
absolutely.
him going anywhere.
No, they got a good young group. A bunch of the, a bunch of the guys when Dennis first started coaching back in when he was in his 20s. So it was like, God, it's probably 30 years ago. Are now starting to have kids, and they got kids that are in like second, third grade in town. So hopefully Dennis will be around to coach their kids. That would be cool. That would be really cool. So we move on. This was a pretty good game as far as I thought this was the game of the night. Sorry. Let me jump into. Oh, sorry. The Friars 26s, coached by Tom Rooney. That's a really good group of sophomores. We'll be hearing about them next year in the recruiting, but there were a lot of good kids. They played Huntington. That game was a little bit of a little bit of a lopsided game. What'd you see with the Friars 26s?
Yeah, so the Friars 26s, I mean, they have a ton of high level, top flight sophomores on this team. Now some of them aren't from St. Anthony's or they don't go to St. Anthony's, but some of their standouts, particularly in this game, like Cameron James, he's from Smithtown East. How about his game having 7 points, 3 and 4? I mean, that's big time. Dylan
Yeah,
Harrison,
he's legit. That kid is
yeah,
legit. We saw that kid at East. That kid
yeah,
as a freshman was playing like a man
yeah, for a team that went to the county final.
as a freshman, and he was a contributor.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
Yeah,
between him, Dylan Harrigan, he had a hat trick in that game. You also got a couple goals from Tommy Leader. He goes to Manhasset. Also Sean Ronayne with a couple goals as well. I mean, it's just another team for St. Anthony's where they just have so much offensive firepower. Again, it's kind of like pick your poison with who's going to beat you because they just come at you in so many different ways. And again, just able to put up 13 goals in that one, was really just for them being able to separate themselves and pull away in that one. But
yeah. It looks like Huntington only
like
had one goal in this game. Who scored the goal for them? Joey Zank, right? Joey Zink.
yeah, Joey Zink, he had the lone goal. Huntington, they were shorthanded though. They were missing
Yeah,
a number of kids.
yeah. Tommy Klein didn't play. He was the Loyola commit.
Yeah,
I'm
no
looking. Timmy
Klein,
McDonald wasn't there.
no McNulty, no Lennon,
Yeah.
no
Those are
Rebecca.
four. Those are your four best offensive play. Oh, and the kid, the attackman, Giramonte.
Yeah, no Germonti either.
Yeah, so five. That's five of your top six offensively.
Yeah, like it's tough when you're going into a game missing all those players.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully they'll be back next time that Huntington plays. That way they'll have an opportunity to start to gel. The next game was probably the game of the day, right?
Yeah, that would have been considered the epic game of the night.
Yeah, that was the Wantagh Warriors who have joined us this year, and playing the Friars 26s again. Friars 26s went back to back, and that game looked. I mean, I knew I was standing in the lobby. Obviously, we had the TV on and I could hear it, but that game had like juice to it. Like the crowd was into it.
Yeah, that one definitely had a ton of energy, a ton of juice. And for St. Anthony's coming out with that win 7-6, they never led in that game until the final 15 seconds when they got that game-winning goal from Dylan Harrigan. And Danny Rooney, he had the assist on that goal, but that was their only lead of the game. And it just came at the most important time for them, but it was just really, really back and forth the entire way. Um, Again, that's one of those games where like you hate to see like someone lose, but it just had a ton of energy, a ton of juice. Just another again, some of the players that stood out. Cameron James again, he had a hat trick in that one. Danny Rooney, he was 2-1 on the night. I thought also from a defensive standpoint, I thought Kip Zachariah, he was he was a real difference maker for St. Anthony's. He's actually from Manhasset, but he was a difference maker in that game for them because I thought one of the critical plays in that game was when it looked like Wantagh might have a shot clock violation, and that would have just blown the play dead. But Zachariah came up with a big ground ball, and it ultimately led to a goal for St. Anthony's. But just him being able to come up with that GB before the expiration of the shot clock and get them out in transition ended up being a game-changing play for St. Anthony's.
Yeah, he's a poll to watch. Definitely. He's a 26, right?
Yeah, he's a 26 and he saw like he played for Manhasset last year. Like he
Yeah,
wasn't just on the team, like he was a player.
that's pretty. That's another impression. They won the states, right?
Yeah.
That's legit. That's legit. Wantagh then goes back to back and plays one of their rivals, the Firebirds from Kellenberg, which was that was a relatively close game, right? Wantagh kind of had the game in hand, but it was. I mean, at one point it was probably a 2-goal game, but would that finish 8-5?
Yeah, 8-5 finish. After that was a 1-goal game at the half. So Wantagh able to hang on for the win there. But I mean, you can talk about the martinis on that team. It's like you say the last name Martini, and like people got to ask you which one because it's like they're all such big contributors. Whether it's Jake Martini, who he's going to Army, then he's a senior. Dylan Martini, the junior, he's going to the University of Albany. They also have the little Martini on that team as well, Luke. And
What year is Luke?
Luke is a 2028.
So he's in 8th grade. So he was on the varsity as a 7th grader.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, I think this is the team that'll give. Are they playing in the Cold Spring Harbor division this year? Or are they playing in C? They're
Uh,
playing Manhassets.
I think well, Manhasset's in the B's now, but
Oh,
if
so they're in the
I think
C's.
yeah, I think they're standing alone, I think in C's
Oh, they
like
got to be the front runner, but
yeah, you would think so for sure.
yeah, I mean they'll have to obviously come and beat Shoreham or Bayport, or Sinai from
Hmm.
Suffolk. Which I mean, Shoreham and Bayport. I mean, I would probably say Shoreham and Bayport will be the two teams
Well,
that.
remember they played Bayport last spring in like one of the first games of the year. That was a 1-goal game.
Who won that game?
Bayport, they won like 9-8.
Yeah, so that tells you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that looks, that could be it. It's funny you were watching the Pequa Hills game and you said this could be the LIC. It could be. You never know.
Yeah, as long as you got AA or BB or CC whatever, like there's a chance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Looks like the kid Angelone's the real deal, huh? He's a Seaford kid who goes to Kellenberg, right?
Yeah, he's cousins with Jake Anzalone from Seaford. But yeah,
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes
yeah,
total sense.
hmm yeah. Because
Yeah, he had three in this game. I watched him. I like his game.
yeah, Anzalone, yeah, he had a hat trick in that one. Then you got a goal from Maverick Chernoff, as well as Jake Grimm. I wonder if there's a relation to
Yeah, he's the
Dwayne.
brother. He's the little brother.
Oh,
He's the cousin to Delaney. He's Delaney's cousin.
oh, they're cousins. Oh, okay, okay.
He's Evan. Well, what's his Griffin, the one who went to Binghamton and then transferred. Maverick is his little brother.
Okay.
That's a great name, isn't it, Maverick?
That's a heck of a name.
Yeah, I like that name. Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. We got about 5 minutes to go before we get cut off, so we'll do one more and then we'll jump in again. The
Yeah.
next game was the ALIC preview or possible preview, but I'm sure Ward Melville and Northport have something to say about that. But Hills, who looks like the real deal. What do you think, E?
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about how high we are on Hills and they're not disappointing. Like Anthony Rayo, 7 last night. 7. And the crazy thing about that game was that I thought for Massapequa, I thought Michael Giannotti, like in the net, he was keeping them in that game. Because at one point, when I think it was right when Rayo had 5 at this particular point in the game, and the score was like 8-3. So it's like if Anthony Rayo wasn't on the field, like it would have been a 3-3 game. So it's like that just goes to show you when you have a transcendent talent like that, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, and having Filardi. I mean, with the
yeah,
pole, he's a
Filardi,
wizard. They see him playing man up behind the cage.
I know.
I think that's smart though, because he's got the skill and he's as tough as nails. I mean, the kid won the Suffolk County Quarterback of the Year. I mean, he's obviously an awesome athlete, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, this could be Hill's year, man. I'm sure Ward Melville. I mean, we'll talk about Ward Melville when we jump in and discuss them. They looked very good. But with as far as Pico goes, let's talk about Mike Giannotti. Is Mike Giannotti committed?
No, he's uncommitted. One of
Dude,
those
he.
uncommitted 2025 goalies we got
I
in
would
our.
say him and Beasley, right? They're the highest uncommitted goalies that we have ranked, right?
Yeah, they're right up there. Like I feel like it won't be too long before we're seeing where those guys are going to be going.
Yeah, those guys are both very talented, but Giannotti looks great. We've seen Giannotti play a ton over
Hmm
the summer and before that. Any kids on Pequa that you like?
Yeah, so for Piqua, their offense came from Jack Gargiulo, as he had a hat trick in that game, and he'll be a big player for them upcoming in the spring season. I mean, I got a chance to see them going back to the summer at the National Lacrosse Invitational, and he's definitely going to be one of their top offensive playmakers in what's really a pretty open Class A in Nassau County, I would say, between like them and Syosset, Farmingdale. Like I feel like either of those 3 teams would have a chance to come out of that conference for Nassau.
Yeah, we'll get to see Syasa play another 5 times this winter, so I'm curious to see how that team looks.
Yeah. Oh, also just want to going back to goalies just for a moment. Sal Santoro for Hills. Just mentioning him again. He stood on his head last night. He was 75% in saves, had 12 on the evening.
Yeah, I see that. Where Sal is a 25 also. Is he committed?
No, Sal's also an uncommitted 25.
It's this we just mentioned 3 uber talented kids. Coaches, what are you waiting for? Come on. Right? You got Beasley from West Hampton, Centura from Hills, and Giannotti from Piqua. These kids can ball. Very interesting fun fact that when you allowed me to jump in with you on the end of the night, we were talking about goaltending, and we had one of our statisticians there, Gary Correa, who's playing at Stony Brook, who's a Chaminade alum. Fun fact for goaltenders out there that get all frustrated when they don't get time. Did you heard me talking about Brendan Krebs, who's playing in the PLL, right? The kid from Chaminade.
Yeah.
He was a third string goalie at Chaminade. Third string goaltender. Think of this. He's one of the 8 best goalies in the world.
Yeah. And he couldn't see time at Chaminade.
Yeah. So it just tells you, man, you just keep working at your craft. I mean, Krebsy had a great career at Manhattan, went on to get his opportunity with the PLL, got his opportunity to get in the game, and boom, the kid just signed a 2-year deal. He's got a contract through 2025. That's a little shout out to a Chaminade alum. All right, so we're gonna shut this down and we'll jump in. You send me a new Zoom and we'll rock and roll. All right, brother?
Yep, we'll be back shortly for part 2.
Later, bud.